Hi and welcome to MJT's Wycombe Wanderers Plus, and here we go again. This is the Monday night football show and it's number 24. This is in fact Sunday night. We're doing it one evening early, so excuse us if we make one or two comments about, well, did you see the match earlier, etc, etc. We're 24 hours early, but hey, I don't think we're going to miss much on a Monday morning or Monday afternoon. So the first story has to be the breaking news in the Times yesterday, about the European Super League. So, Kieran, you read it?
I've seen about it and I've heard everyone's comments about it.
And we, of course, know all about what they're talking about because we've discussed it here on this show already, and we started way back 9 weeks ago discussing this, number 15. I looked it up, the Monday Night Football Show 15. Why? Okay, so working on the theory, people have got a clue what we're talking about here. Why are Bayern Munich and PSG, why aren't they backing it in breaking away with the top teams to go into a European Super League?
I think it's pretty, well, from my point of view, I'd say it's pretty clear that it will never happen because there'd be such a disgruntlement from all of the fans of all of the clubs that this Super League would be an awful idea. And I think Bayern and PSG are probably just kind of trying to protect their own, kind of their own standards and their own kind of value in that respect.
You think it's that, or you don't think they think it won't happen, so they'll pretend that they're being nice and pleasant?
I get the impression that even the clubs who are signing up to it know it's not going to happen. That's the impression you kind of get because you don't hear any of the owners come out and say anything about it. I mean, as Gary Neville was making quite clear on Sky Sports today, he was talking about how all the owners are massive bottle jobs, and in the end, they will be because this won't happen.
Well, the Juventus guy came out for it, didn't he?
Yeah,
he backed it.
Well, but have you ever heard any of the English clubs owners ever speak? Even, to be fair,
no.
I've never heard any of them, and so for them to suggest that they're just going to go and break away into this Super League in which the players won't be able to play for their nations or in a World Cup or in the Euros, they're not going to even have the players to even play in the Super League because surely no players are going to want to do that because the mindset of a manager and a player are very different to that of an owner. Owner obviously knows what they want out of it, and that is the money. But the managers and player love the game for what it is and don't want it to change in that huge a way.
I think it's interesting that they've chosen now, and I'll tell you why, and that is because now is the time. People don't really have the money to buy the players in these teams. And it's almost like, I don't understand if a club breaks away and the player is under contract, but the player knows that if he goes, he can't play for his own country, but he's under contract with that team, is he allowed to leave?
Must be able to.
Something, mustn't there?
The thing is, this is very early in kind of the negotiations of it all, isn't it? And so the chance
but it has to be because again, Monday, in theory, is when all the cards are on the table for UEFA saying this is our setup and this is happening in 2024.
I mean, even the new Champions League setup is controversial in itself.
Oh, it's awful.
Not as controversial as this would be, though, because if this would go ahead, then goodness knows how football will change. I mean, the only thing in my mind that makes me think that this could happen is that, I mean, we obviously have our opinions, and I think we're probably quite low down in the football opinion kind of status.
Really?
Yes, really. But Arsene Wenger says that a Super League is inevitable.
I think so.
And if he's the sort of person who's saying that, and he's at the top of, is it UEFA or FIFA, one of the two, I can't remember which one, then kind of gives you the impression that something's going to happen.
I think it's been on the cards for so long. It will eventually happen, and with every move UEFA make in trying to keep hold of these clubs, is getting nearer and nearer, and easier for them to break away. But in this case, I think what they're actually after is there was two reasons that the new idea of UEFA's Champions League was having a few sticky points with the big teams. Was the first one was being allowed into the Champions League even though you didn't qualify for the big teams. And that, of course, was causing problems. Well, I think this is where they're pushing it, saying you're going to have to, because look what we're going to do if you don't. And the other one was the money, where the top teams were saying we want to negotiate the Champions League and make the TV deals, and not you, when dealing with the UEFA Champions League. And they were saying no, and they're voting on all of this today. And I got a sneaking suspicion this is almost pushing their hand and saying you're going to have to, because we're ready to go now.
This is it, isn't it? I think, I hope that the reason that they're proposing this Super League is to try and get more power in the ways that we know football as it is now. It's the only hope that I have of this. But even that is just like, I don't know whether it is criminal. The thing is that this is the thing. There probably will be some criminal part of all of this as well. Don't want to.
UEFA are going to look into that, aren't they? They're going to do everything they can and actually look into the legalities of it all.
Yeah, anyway. Surely you can't just say, "Oh, we're off. See you later." It's not a thing, is it?
Well, I'm not sure whether I mind or not. In the end, I really could. I feel like I could really sort of wave goodbye to these top teams. They get on my back, and they really do. I've had enough of City thinking they can walk everything, United thinking they've got a right to win the league, and all these others. And the one that makes me laugh the most, I have to say, well, I suppose two that make me laugh the most is Arsenal and Tottenham thinking they're a big team.
Yeah.
I mean, Leicester aren't even in there, but Tottenham are. Well, Tottenham won.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? Tottenham haven't won anything in goodness knows forever. Arsenal are certainly not what they were.
Well, at least we can say Arsenal are getting a little bit better. I mean, Tottenham, as I will show you in the figures, actually since 2017 have only got worse. I mean, they're not a big team, are they?
No. But then we know the big teams before as being United, Liverpool, Chelsea and Arsenal.
I mean, the only reason City count as a big team, I mean, remember Wycombe Wanderers. I saw them lose to Wycombe Wanderers, in the same league not that many years ago. I mean, what, I guess, take a look. We'll take a look at the four in the Champions League. Who are the four teams that got through? Kieran.
Who are the four teams from last season? Oh,
this time.
What, PSG, City, Chelsea and Real Madrid?
Oh, interesting. Oh, don't all the teams have a chance then, or is it, I mean, isn't that, what is, you see, that is why I'm bored with it. What is the point? What's the point? What, I mean, everybody goes on about West Ham, is there any point West Ham getting into Europe, really?
Well, it's how you judge success, I suppose, isn't it? Because the top team's success is by winning trophies. The bottom teams in the Premier League success is by staying up.
I know.
Do the two kind of correlate? This is where you have to try and answer that. Is it as much satisfaction of if Norwich stayed in the Premier League next season as it would be for City winning the league? I mean, I'm going to assume not. It's not like you're going to remember the great Norwich team of 2022 that stayed up in the Premier League, are you?
And so, it's sort of on this point. I suppose this. No, I was going to say I want to discuss everybody talking about Pep Guardiola talking about where he overthinks things. I'm not convinced. I think somebody just came up with he overthinks things, and now everybody says it as a sort of, you know, like pretending he overthinks things. No, he's got the richest players in the world on a football pitch, playing a load of guys that earn nothing like, and he brings them on. They play football. Yes, he might train them, and they might play on a grid football pitch. And he says, you run up there and you stop the ball going in the net. But in the end, does he overthink it, or is he putting a, I don't know, £100 million player up against a £1 million player? I wonder. Meanwhile,
but who dictates who's worth 100 million compared to 1 million?
Well,
you know,
I think we can figure that out, can't we? Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. We're talking of which, we'll look at Werner later, the £1 million player. Well, and Jesus, if it comes to that. Okay. So we'll leave that there. On to the next topic. Okay, Wycombe Wanderers. Well, the dream has crashed. The dream has crashed.
It literally just feels like, yeah, it would have been nice if we'd won. But, I mean, it's got to be expected. I mean, the two goals we scored, amazing. They're great, weren't they? They're fantastic.
Of course, Musquay, you got to remember, is on loan. He's not a Wycombe player, which is a bit of a shame.
But it is a bit of a shame. But, I mean, does he get a chance in the Premier League? I don't know, to be fair. I don't think he wants to stick around in League One. I think he'd probably prefer a Championship team.
Yeah,
I mean,
get one as well.
I think if he can score those type of goals on a decently regular basis, then yeah, he's definitely Championship, isn't he?
Yeah.
But it was annoying, wasn't it? Because the two goals that we conceded, it was just like the handball was very unlucky, wasn't it? In my opinion,
he fell over.
I mean, like he was going for like a slide, and the hand's going to be somewhere. The ball just happened to hit his hand. Oh, it is a penalty, but it's just like,
yeah.
Unfortunately, that's what happened. And then their cross the second goal was just like, what do you do?
What do you do? Yeah, not a lot really.
No. I think that's kind of what we said for the majority of the start of the season, was these teams got quality at the end of the day where they can just produce a goal out of nothing, whereas we have to work extremely hard for our goals.
I thought what was interesting that Swansea played a back three as well. It's funny because they were losing him playing a back three, and he swapped to a back four, and he won the last two, and then he saw Wycombe's line up and decided to put wing backs on there to protect their defence. which I thought was interesting. So he rated Wycombe, which I thought was rather pleasant of their manager. He obviously rated
Very nice.
Wycombe,
Yeah.
so that was good.
Yeah, lovely for someone to give us a compliment.
Yeah, that sort of thing. Somebody said about we should have had a penalty. Did you see that bit? What is up there, Kieran?
There's a fly.
Right.
Don't worry.
Um,
Which bit was that?
Musway went absolutely bananas, jumping up and down.
I don't think I did. I don't think that was on the
Right.
highlights,
Well, he kicked the ball at somebody, and I didn't think. I have to say now, I didn't think it was a penalty. Some Wycombe fans obviously think it was, but don't we always? I didn't think it was. I thought it'd been. If I always try and look at it the other way, and if we were Swansea and that penalty had been given, would I have been upset? And the answer would be yes, I would have been upset. And I try and look at it that way round.
It's probably just because of some of the ones that have been given against us this season that we kind of feel obliged to get some of the soft ones.
Yes,
we?
Yeah. We were also lucky that Io went off. Io went off after 6 minutes. Their top goal scorer. With, they're not too. I don't know how long he'll be out. I mean, it was a hamstring, but he did walk off, without a problem. He felt it. He didn't sort of, hit the deck in pain.
But some of those sometimes can just be a small little thing that puts someone out for a good 4 or 5 months, can't it?
Well, exactly. So they could be in trouble because they need him. I think, is it 18 goals he scored, 16 goals, something like that.
Solid amount, yeah.
I'm going down here because now I'm starting to think it was 14. And he's their top goal scorer. And so I think they might be in trouble the more games he misses. They're safe, I have to say, in that playoffs, but they need him in the playoffs. And that's not far away. Of course, middle of May. So he's got to recover quick.
Yeah,
be back up to scratch. So I did think Wycombe. Yeah, I was quite happy. I didn't really have any complaints. I thought we've done all right. We've shown that actually we can survive in the Championship next year. I mean, the year after when we come back up.
Yeah.
I think we can survive.
Yeah, I think obviously the introduction of having Ep24 was very beneficial since the middle of the season. But I think for us to really cement kind of our survival, if and when we would come back up, I think we'd need a bit of a stronger midfield, maybe.
Yeah,
I think that's where it's kind of like creativity and having a solid midfield. Like our midfield now is fine, and there's no real big weaknesses with it. It's just not strong enough, and so it's just getting that kind of level of player above who can create something.
There'd be 3 players for me that are gonna need to go straight out the door. And this is cruel. I'm sure people say, what is he talking about?
Probably.
Yeah. The one the other guy liked last week, Hogarth. Horgan, Horgan. Yeah. And the other guy was I'm going to have trouble getting his name. McCleary. He's.
I don't think McCleary's not there to be a starter, though, is he? In all fairness,
no.
And he also is quite old, so he will be moving on.
And Lars Thompson, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I can understand that. I think he was very decent, like in our last few seasons in League One, but has looked a little bit out of his depth recently.
I love, as you would know, I love figures and numbers and that. But I'd be fascinated to see a chart of how many balls he wins and how many fouls he commits. I don't think he seems to win the ball very often. He just decks the guy, seems to me, and he gives an awful lot of free kicks away.
Yeah, I think what we will need is a few more midfielders who will have much higher pass accuracy than the ones we currently have. So if you look at the pass accuracy kind of stats in a Wycombe team, it's very rare that a player gets more than kind of 60. And I know Wycombe aren't really that sort of team, but you've got to have, someone who can keep the ball for a decent proportion of the game. And I don't think our midfielders at the moment really do that well enough for us.
No.
And the other thing we'll have to definitely have a look at, whether it's next year or the year after, is a Jacobson replacement, which will be very, very difficult to come by. Because a Jacobson replacement can be a right back, realistically. It can be a right back who has the set piece prowess that he does, or it can be a left back. Because I know we just bought the left back from Oxford, didn't we, during January? And he may well be a future left back, and he could be decent. However, he's obviously not Jacobson's kind of set piece prowess, does he? So
we haven't got. But Jacobson,
apart from,
I mean, his corners weren't very good either.
No, but sometimes they can be very good, can't they?
Well, he hasn't this year. Hasn't produced them this year. Every time he picks a ball up for a corner, everybody's, he scores direct from corners. And I'm thinking, no, he had the one that was disallowed.
No, he did do quite a few, to be fair to him. But yeah,
he was a top goal scorer last year.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is the thing. It's like that's part of the reason why we haven't won a few more games this season is because Jacobson hasn't been as good on corners or on free kicks he has been in recent years. But nevertheless, we do need someone who's going to be very good on set pieces because it is a big part of our play at the moment.
Well, I love this idea using wing backs. We've got the wing backs. We've got the forward. We've got two good goalkeepers in my book. The back line, do we keep? I mean, will we get? We won't keep Knight, will we? He'll be gone. But the back line doesn't look too bad, and it is that midfield. And he has started playing football. They haven't been belts up the middle, and we're winning and picking up points. So I'm quite happy with what we've got, and I'm quite happy with that. I'm pleased with what we've got. Do you know? I said about Jacobs. I said Jacobson. I said about it's late at night now. I said about Mr. Manager Gareth Ainsworth being 3-1 on getting the sack. Guess who is now favourite? There's 43 managers gone now. The last time I mentioned it, there were 40. So there's 43 managers have now been sacked or left this season. Not bad out of 92 teams. But guess who's now favourite to get the job for the England under-21s?
No way.
Why? Who do you think?
Oh, or are you not going to say Ainsworth because you just mentioned him?
No.
Lampard.
Yes.
Yeah.
3-1.
I mean,
why?
Why not? I suppose you could say. I mean, the thing is, it's an under-21 managerial role. I don't know, what sort of prowess a manager you're really looking for in that regards. Because do you look for a top-end manager, or do you look for a half-decent one? I don't really know. It's kind of a difficult one to kind of gauge. I don't think he'd be a bad manager to have, actually. Because he was very decent when he was very young, and he could probably teach the young England's players quite a few things.
So he's not got to win a league, he's just got to teach them how to play football?
No, I don't think you've got to win a league. I mean, Southgate was a very decent under-21s manager. And obviously he's done crap all, or had done before that. So I don't know whether Lampard should be it, but I think he should probably be considered. I mean, when he was at Derby, because he had Mount, Wilson, Tomori, who were all very young and all did very well. Championship, I know they didn't get promoted or anything, but maybe take that consideration.
Okay, right. We'll leave that subject there, and we'll move on now to the next topic.
Flight. The hosts hung on to this lead in the first half, but soon after the break, the league's top scorer, Veleton, earned a spot kick for Spartak, but someone unexpected stepped up to take it. A fan, in fact, the Sutton goalie Kinski, convincingly beaten by that, and he was again when Alex did it for real to square things up for Spartak. But their joy was true.
Okay, I look really tired. I can see my face on this screen. Do I always look this tired and old?
I don't think you do, mate. Don't worry.
Okay, we're going to look at really, really fast 5 whiz-throughs championship teams. I've written a couple of things down for each one, and if I forget what I actually why I wrote that down or whatever, don't worry. I wrote this down a week ago. I can't remember what I did yesterday. Barnsley, DK we discussed DK a little while ago. Where are Barnsley in the league? Kieran.
They are 6th.
6th, so they're in the playoffs. Who's behind them?
Reading, Cardiff. They're 4 points in front of Reading, who are in 7th.
Right, so they stand a fairly decent chance, but they did play yesterday. And I'm just going to look that up, or you can.
They lost to Coventry 2-0.
They are starting to trip a little bit here. But Barnsley, DK, well, they seem to have kept hold of him. He didn't go back to Orlando City, so I presume they haven't bought him. But I presume he's still on loan for a little bit more money. Would be my guess. They obviously want him till the end of the season, but then he'll be gone. As for pluses and minuses about their team, they might get in the playoffs. I hope so. Can't see them going up, and they certainly shouldn't go up, really. They'd be absolutely smashed. But it's a good bit of fun for them anyway. They are punching above their weight. Now, passes per defensive action, they are 6th. They take 10.9 seconds. In other words, they press. They move quick and they hit the teams. They don't give anybody time on the ball. And possessions during a game is on average 102. You have the ball, your team, 102 times a game. And that is roughly what everybody's is. It seems to be quite average, and then boom, you bounce it up when you get to Barnsley at 123. Now, what does that mean? Doesn't that mean that they just belt it around the football pitch until it comes back at them? It would seem that way. In other words, disruption, fast, and so fast that they don't actually have control.
Isn't that what we do?
So they press really hard and fast, but they have the ball more often than most teams, but they lose it more often than most teams. So it seems to me to be that sort of belt, hold on, kick it, boot it, press, get hold of it, lose it. It's that sort of game. The manager, a guy called Ishmael, often makes all his 5 subs before 65 minutes in a game. He often changes 2 at half time and then swaps another 3 65 minutes into the game if he's not happy. That's brilliant. I like to see that. Are they going to keep hold of the 5 subs because it suits him? That's for sure. He's making use of it, not like Manchester City, who sort of maybe won a game. The average age per minute, if you work it out, who they bring on and who they take off, etc. They have the second youngest team in Europe. The first is Nice, by the way, but Barnsley have the second youngest team in Europe. So they're doing pretty well, aren't they?
Pretty decent, yeah.
Reading. Now, Reading are right behind Barnsley. Reading
quick overview, yeah.
Reading did a sort of opposite to Wycombe. They started with 7 wins. Whereas we all know what happened to Wycombe, don't we, everybody? But they're not going to make it, I don't think, into the playoffs. And that tells you that up until the end of October, they scored 16 goals from 6.8 expected goals. And that's massive. And that's telling you that was never going to carry on, that they were getting a bit lucky on what was ending up in the net. And of course, the luck, the overperformance came to an end. In other words, they weren't creating. If you only create 6 chances of scoring and you've scored 16, the chances are that it's going to come back down to that 6 chances of scoring, and you'll probably score 6 or 7 at best. So, and that's what's basically happened. So they've slowly gone down. Guy to look out for is Michael Elise, 5 goals, 10 assists. He's a teenager, makes a few mistakes, but I think he could be, his name will be heard in the Championship for a little while before possibly heading further upfield. Another one is Omar Richards. He's actually heading to Bayern Munich in the summer. He's a winger. Might hear his name mentioned in Champions League or the Super League. And Ovi Ajaria, who is known in Reading as a dribbly legend. Keeps the ball well, runs with the ball well, and then trips up and misses.
In fact, they do have a top scorer as well with 22 goals.
Yeah.
He's decent. Lucas Shaw.
Yeah. I'm picking sort of little hidden gems in there.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Huddersfield. Where are Huddersfield?
They are 20th.
20th.
On
and
47
are they
points.
Staying up? Probably yes.
Yeah.
They've had a desperate season. They're on what, Premier League hangover, shall we call it? They've done a Sunderland, but just about survived. I think would be the way of terming it, haven't they? They've had their dreadful 1 year, and now hopefully...
Well, it was a year before, wasn't it? They got relegated.
Yes,
but they've had 2 pretty crappy years, haven't they?
They're going to have to sort that out. They do have an awful habit of overplaying things. The manager, a guy called Carlos Coveran, he worked for the Leeds manager. What's his name? Crouchy.
Bielsa.
Crouch. He used to work. He used to work for him, which is where he gets some of his ideas from. Which is probably why Huddersfield are 20th in my book. Probably a bit dangerous.
Yeah.
They're a very interesting team to watch. They are interesting, and that's probably why. Actually, a few funny ideas, and they've had a dreadful injury season, in all fairness to them. They've got a wing back called Pieper that looks good and name might be mentioned. He takes on players, happy to carry the ball, but he only averages 1 shot a game, but that's out of 0.04 expected goals. In other words, his shots come out of nowhere when really he should be passing the ball. He's not got no chance of scoring, and he takes a shot. and he's one of those. And you can imagine all the other players in the team screaming, "Why didn't you give it to me?"
What did you say his name was out of interest?
Peeper.
Well, according to the list of Huddersfield scorers, he hasn't scored this season, so
No.
probably tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah. How many have I done? 3.
Yeah.
Right, 2 more very quickly. Coventry, they won today. Survival will be a success. They probably will have success. They've been absolutely trash to watch. If you think Wycombe are bad to watch, try a Coventry game. But they're going to survive. Callum O'Hare, hard-working, very defensive. Tyler Walker, defensive. Haymar, small, scored 5 non-penalty goals from midfield. And there's very little else you can say about them. They survived. And that's about the best you can say. Their fans have probably been better off not going to watch. At least they've made it through that first year, and with a bit of luck can now start looking at playing football. And that from a Wycombe fan. Birmingham, Lee Bowyer is the manager. Yeah, not good. They're not good at the back. Where are they in the league?
19th.
How many goals they let in?
A lot.
Not good at the
goal
back.
Difference of -18.
Few shots allowed. They don't let many people have a go. But if you look at how many shots against compared with the ones they let in and expected goals other people have against them, you will see that although they block a lot, they stop people scoring or getting in position. Every time they do, they score. In other words, there's massive gaps in the defence. Guy to look out for is Ivan Sanchez, a winger with a good left foot. They bought a lot of players for millions of pounds, Birmingham, and they won't get any money back on them the way they've played this year. And they're my 5 teams. Sorry, Birmingham fans, you crap. Then we're looking at the bottom of the table here, aren't we? And it's going to get even worse because we're going to look at a few more at the bottom later on. So anything to say about that dreadful last 3?
No, I think you've already established that they're crap and you're going to get mean comments because of it. So
yeah, more than likely.
I don't want to aggravate anyone anymore. So
I would just like to congratulate Norwich on going up this weekend. By the way, that's done and dusted. We'll look at them in a week or 2, and I also want to say, Rotherham, you've cocked it up, and you're coming down with Wycombe after today. In my book, they had 4 games in hand and everybody was trying to work out how many points they'll get. Well, so far they've got none out of 3 of their 4 games in hand. So
taking no prisoners, are you?
They've had it. Rotherham bounce the basketball team between Championship and Division 1. End of tournament.
Some tickers are good. Some tickers are bad. Some tickers.
The guys are coming with unbelievable tickers.
Unbelievable.
Okay, what is happening in the summer? We've had all these teams that are saying they're poor, we ain't got no money. In fact, it's not just the clubs, but the owners that are lacking the money. Abroad, of course, they're not getting the TV money that they expected. And this is partly why the Super League appeals, because they'd be picking up 350 million for joining, whereas they'd normally pick up 100 million for being in the European Cup. So it's 3 years supply just for joining. But if they're all broke, how can anybody move in the summer? Well, last summer there was a 1.3 billion spending spree in the Premier League last summer. In January, there were only 24 transfers and they only spent 70 million. In other words, it's slowing down, and across Europe, it's even less. I mean, they're spending virtually nothing. So what sort of market are we going to get? Well, what we're going to get is, first of all, it's worth mentioning it's a buyer's market. There's going to be lots of loans, but some clubs are skint. They don't have the money. And what teams aren't going to do is go out and risk 15 million on a player in the hope that he'll be good enough. They'll buy a player for 15 million, but he must be in their starting 11. They know he will be in their start. They're not going to take any risks. But how does this market get going? Well, this is how I think they're going to do it. First of all, somebody like Danny Ings, whose contract comes to an end in 12 months' time, is a perfect player for anybody because he's going to cost nothing, virtually. Southampton will be really desperate. And they were talking to one guy who buys and sells, and he said a year and a half ago, this one particular player was worth 15 million. He's now worth 5. He was going to get paid 80,000 a week. Now they're offering 40. In other words, it is a buyer's market, but it's a market that is also open to swaps, loans and obligations to buy. But teams like West Ham and the like are also going to be out there looking for 12-month contract players who are 18 to 23. That's where they're going to find the money. Younger players. So players like Kane, who've got years to go, is going to be way too expensive for most clubs. So how does that work? It works like this. You need one club to buy one big player. And then you've got the cash in the market. And that team can then go and buy, who hand out the cash to other teams who go out and buy. And you need that cash, one team, to put their money in the pot. And who is that player going to be? Well, I'm going to put a thing up on your screen to show you the details on these 6 strikers. And the teams that these all play for could be selling and buying. And if we first look at Haaland and where he comes from, he plays for Dortmund.
Yeah.
Who is likely to buy him, and what do Dortmund do with the money? Now, if we look at him, he has scored, along with 4 of them along the list, 21 goals this year, 5 assists, expected goals 17.7. So he's scoring just above his weight. He's putting a few in that weren't expected of those 21. He's had sort of, he's doing all right. He's just above where he should be. That's good.
Doing all right.
Yeah, so he gets in the right places and he puts them away and sneaks a few in that some people go, wow, that was a good goal. He'll get goal of the month. Kieran, where does he move to?
Man City or PSG. One of the two.
Which?
Well, I hope PSG, because if he goes to Man City, then, as we said before, it'll be very boring. Not sure it's going to happen, though. Because obviously PSG will need to sell one of either Neymar and Mbappe, for them
Okay.
to be able to capacitate a player like Haaland.
You know, he hasn't done that great in the Euro, Champions League, has he?
Who, Haaland?
Yeah, is it last 4
Haaland-
games?
In the last 4 games, but he has the records for the fastest player to get to 20. So I don't think he's done too awfully.
Okay, so working on the theory, they go to PSG. They've now got a ton of cash at Dortmund. Are we seeing any of the top players going to Dortmund, or do they go out and buy a load of little players to fill their team?
They buy a load of little players, don't they?
Okay.
Dortmund have never been a team who have bought like major signings.
So,
They've never done that.
PSG have just spent a fortune. So they've got to sell Mbappe. Where does he go?
Real Madrid.
Now, if we look at him, he scored the 21 goals, taken, 70 odd more minutes to do so. So, I mean, not a lot different, really. 21 goals, 7 assists, 2 more assists than Haaland. Basically the same. I mean, they're virtually the same. And he's going to where?
Real Madrid.
You serious? You think Real Madrid are buying?
It's the place he wants to go to. It's either there or Liverpool, apparently, but that will never happen.
So what City? Who is City looking at then?
Well, City have got to get in for Haaland. That's who they have to get in for.
But
I just don't want him to go to there.
You think Haaland? What about Lukaku though?
Fine that he can be in an Inter Milan team, but so when he's been at Chelsea or Everton or United in the Premier League, hasn't proved himself enough to be that top tier striker that a Haaland or Mbappe are. So I don't think he'll move anywhere, especially if Milan win the league, which it looks like they might.
Who are Real Madrid going to get rid of?
No one, because they don't have anyone. Or Bale.
Well, Bale's not going to be up for...
There's not like they're going to get a massive amount of money for Bale, so that won't really matter.
Aren't Real Madrid broke?
Yeah, sort of. Not quite as bad as Barcelona, but they're not great.
No, I didn't think Real Madrid could afford him.
I don't think anyone realistically can afford either Kane, Haaland, or Mbappe, but they'll do some little, twisting and bending of the rules so that someone can get those players. Because there's no way that any team can just go and spend £200 million on a player, which is what these players would cost.
And I just want to say, don't believe a bloody word Pep says. I'll just say they need a number 9. Okay, they do need one, and I don't care if people say, well, they've got one, and we'll look at his figures in a moment. Oh, Jesus. Because I thought of a few players that I think are atrocious, and I want to show the difference between the figures between a decent number 9 and a bad one. Okay, Kane then. I mean, where's Man United's?
Well, I was going to say, this is where Kane goes.
From?
Kane goes to United, doesn't he?
Okay, because Man United only have Martial for sale in that case. But let's look at his figures on there. Instead of 21 goals, he scored 4. Admittedly, he has played 500 minutes less than, say, Haaland. 700 minutes. I mean, divide that by 90. We're talking about 9-10 games. But he's only scored 4 goals this season, 3 assists. His expected goals was 6.5, meaning he's missing them. Also, that would suggest he doesn't get in the right places on a football pitch. I mean, at least if expected goals was 20, it would mean at least he's standing in the right place. But he's not even doing that. I mean, let's I presume Martial doesn't listen to this. I will write trash next to his name. Who would want him? I don't. Wycombe, no thank you, I have to say. But so where does he go? Well, who cares?
He'll go to Dortmund. He'll go to Dortmund. Let's say that.
Dortmund. Right, we don't want him over here anymore. I'm bored of him on TV. Just missing and being in the wrong place. I mean, just sort of,
I mean, there's also the factor that if he's not playing that many games because of injury, then that's also a factor.
Well, he's played 22 games. And the reason why the minutes is less, Haaland's played 23. He's played 22. And the reason that he's played less minutes is because he gets subbed all the time because he's trash.
Well, there you go.
Now, where does Messi go then? Does he stay?
You know what? It'll be the most interesting thing this summer what Messi does. With something's telling me that he won't leave Barcelona. And realistically, the only other place he's going to go, I think, is PSG. But that'd be weird. And so I think he's going to stay at Barcelona. I think.
Okay.
Or go to Argentina.
Yeah, that might be it. I think he might be going home.
European club wouldn't suit him, other than Barca.
This leaves Manchester City, who are one of the richest clubs in the world, still without a striker, Kieran. And we have Lukaku left on the list.
It's either Haaland or... It is either City or PSG who get Haaland.
Yeah.
I think. And so which either of those... I think he's more likely to go to City because PSG already have an Mbappe and Neymar. If they've already got a Neymar, which means it's like... If you're looking at the players who are 150 million plus, then I think that's why he's more likely to go to City. You could find that PSG sign a player like Mane or Salah because they're not quite Mbappe or Neymar echelon, but they're affordable types of players.
Okay, this is what I've got so far. We've got Haaland going to City, Kane going to United, Mbappe going to Real Madrid, Lukaku going to PSG, Messi either staying or going home, and Martial going to Dortmund.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Sounds about right.
It'd be very interesting to see what happens this summer, because I'm not sure any of it will.
No. Well, we've moved them around. There we go. Shame Mbappe and Haaland won't be in the same league. I think Kane going for United. You see, I like their Caviar. What's his name?
Cavani.
He scored again just now.
Yeah.
And they're going to miss him, and they need to replace him with a decent number 9.
He is 34, isn't he, Cavani?
Yeah, he wants to move.
He wants to move.
He wants to go home.
It's fair enough.
He's asked to go home. So there we go then. So they'll have Kane up front. That'd improve Man United, certainly. And Kane can learn to start being a number 9 again instead of standing on the halfway line.
Yeah.
Learn to get in that box.
Silly Mourinho.
Yeah, it's ruined him, hasn't he? Ruined them. I was actually looking up when was the last time Mourinho actually won anything of any.
No. Yeah.
He hasn't for ages, has he?
Didn't he win the Europa League with United in like 2017 or 18?
Yeah.
One of the two, he did that.
Yeah, he
a while.
lives off of a history. Can I just say, while we're on this topic of buying money, do you know what team are going to be the most well-off team in the Premier League with cash of what they sell and what they buy? It's going to be Crystal Palace, because 12 of their players reach the end of their contracts and they'll all be off. They don't want to have their wages. They've all grown a little bit old. Mr. Manager will be off as well, probably, and they will be able to start afresh with nothing virtually except for the money made in the bank account, which they've kept hold of. So their wages, they haven't been paying out. They won't be paying out. It's gonna be a buyer's market. Crystal Palace, I think, would be worth putting a bit of money on to come in the top European football next season.
That is a very bold prediction.
Well, it'd be a good prediction if it came true. You'd earn a fortune, wouldn't you?
You would.
I think they're going to do a West Ham. If they get the right manager, they're going to be able to pick up players worth 3 times what they're going to pay for them, with wages half what they would normally pay.
To be fair, I've always liked the Crystal Palace owner whenever he's spoken out about things. So maybe you can work some sort of magic. Don't know.
It's perfect for them. It's perfect. And just to say on this list of strikers, this is where Danny Ings comes into play. Now let's have a look at the next one. These are strikers that I come across that I think are crap, and I want to show you the difference between, the figures and what it does. Now, remember, on the previous ones, we're looking at matches played between 23 and 30 minutes, sort of up and down a bit. But the goals were 21, 21, 21, 21, 23, and then we came to Martial 4. Now, let's look across these. This is why City need a striker. Jesus, 8 goals, 3 assists. 7.5 chances. He's a number 9, for goodness sake. He's supposed to be making himself available. He's playing for the best team in this country, who hold the ball the whole game for about 90%. He can go anywhere on that football pitch. They're making it to the byline on a regular basis where he can't be offside. Why is he never in the right place?
You do wonder.
He's only 3 assists. So he can't even pass it to somebody to score a goal.
Well, and yet they're still walking the league.
With him on the football pitch.
Yeah.
Well, they obviously don't rely on him, do they? Would he make any difference if he were to bugger off?
It's like Man City play with 10 men, isn't it?
It is. It is. What a waste of time. Why did they ever buy him? Was he good once?
I don't think he's bad.
Compared with all the others that we've looked at? I know he's not the superstar, but for goodness sake.
He's a Premier League standard player. I think he is also made better by everyone around him, which may be why he still is there. It's like when they had Ian Nacho from a very young age. He scored a lot of goals for Man City, but probably just because of everyone else around him as opposed to his own kind of talent. It's probably the same with Jesus, why he's got 8 goals.
Well, they're from the ones that have hit him while he's standing on the line and gone in, aren't they?
Well, this is it.
Firmino.
Boo.
Boom. He's played 29 matches and scored 6 goals. Less than Jesus by quite a bit, because he's played 6 more games. And only 5 assists. You see, this is where the thing about he creates the goals for the other 2 players doesn't come into play. Also, the expected goals, well, at least he's sort of getting in the right places a bit more than the other guy, but they're missing them, obviously. So it's sort of whether it's good or bad, I'm not quite sure. Expected assists, 4. So he's only actually been able to assist in a goal, being in the right place to help 4 times in 29 matches.
Yeah, very poor season, has to be said, overall.
Shocking. And now we come to this one. I thought was, I was just trying to think of some bad players, which is why we ended up with these ones. Joe Linton. This is why I mean, a striker, 3 goals, 2 assists, 4.7 expected goals. So it's not like he's missing them all even. I mean, you could blame the midfield in not creating all the chances. You could. In his case, I get it, probably. But it does mean that when the chances arrive, he misses them. Traore, he scored his one the other day, last week. But for a striker, he's a winger, sort of.
He's a winger, yeah.
1 goal, but 2 assists. And he's the playmaker on the pitch. He's the one creating the chances. No, actually, he's not. They are missing him, I might add, because he's sort of created 4.6 chances and they've only scored 2. But even so, that doesn't tell you that he's creating.
Not creating enough, no.
One every 7 games or something. And Werner, oh yes. I mean, there's been lots of comments about him, but why comments about him when you look at these figures compared with? Because his are bad. 5 goals, 6 assists. Well, at least he's helped 6 goals go in. I mean, if you add them up, you know, he's played as well as Jesus and Firmino. He's no worse than. He has missed a few though. 9.8. He's missing 50% of the chances he gets. And Souček's on there not because he's a striker, but because he's a midfield player. He's a centre back. Centre mid, and I wanted to show how a centre mid can outplay the number 9s. So this isn't putting him down. He's actually showing you how bad the others are, in that he's only played 22 games, but scored more than all those other players. He scored 9. 1 assist, which I would suggest he probably scores most of them in the air, does he?
Oh, yeah. They're all corners or free kicks, yeah.
And expected assists 1.5 and expected goals 7.2. So he obviously does manage to sort of get his head in the way. So I just wanted to put his up there to show the difference. And I want to show how these figures can actually give people an idea. You could put
Lingard up there as well, couldn't you? Like eight goals in 10. 8 goals.
Yeah, I could. I was choosing which player because I looked at West Ham. And the reason I put Souček rather than him is because Lingard is an attacking midfielder, and I wanted to show how bad the others were by putting a non-attacking midfielder. He's actually there for defence more than anything.
I can imagine Lingard's played a lot less games though as well. So I mean, but either way, it makes sense.
So anyway, there's that, and so I hope you enjoyed looking at that, and we'll come to the games next. How long have we been going? What time?
Just over an hour.
Just over an hour.
Gómez o pasa Gutiérrez. Gutiérrez a Muñoz. ¡Gol! Señores y señores, tengo un gol por la primera vez en mi vida. Veo un gol. Golazo, pedazo de gol de un striker. Aquí lo vemos por la segunda vez y se le pasa.
Yeah, we got the FA. We got the FA Cup as well, though. Let's discuss the FA Cup.
Well, Chelsea beating City was good.
Yes. Wasn't that entertaining? Did you see it?
I saw bits of it. Yep. It kind of looked like Chelsea deserved it more than anything.
Oh, absolutely. I really enjoyed watching Chelsea play. Normally it's City that hold on to the ball. It's City with the ball. That didn't happen. I think it was 50-50.
I mean, they had that goal ruled out in the first few minutes as well that could easily have been onside.
Yeah.
Just cemented that. But yeah, I mean, for me anyway, I'm just happy that City won't win the quadruple now.
Yeah.
It's kind of what it is for me. But I mean, Tuchel just keeps impressing, doesn't he? He's beaten every top manager in the Premier League thus far. And you can't really say it's a manager kind of beginning hoodoo, because he's been there a good 3 or 4 months now, and he's still impressing a lot. So
I want to see what happens when they lose sort of 2 or 3 in a row.
Yeah,
that's when you find out. And I also think, I mean, I said earlier about this idea that Pep overthinks things. They said that again. I think that's so cheap commentary. Oh, well, maybe he's overthought this. What a load of rubbish.
not very specific.
What
is
he's
it?
done is he didn't put his best 11 players on the football pitch to play Chelsea. He treated them like trash, thinking he could get away with.
No, I think that's a bit harsh. He didn't play his goalkeeper, and that was it.
Foden changed when he went on the pitch.
Yeah, but I mean, Ferran Torres isn't bad. And they still had De Bruyne, Sterling, Jesus, Rodri, Fernandinho. Like, it's still in terms, like, yes, maybe Foden gets into their best 11, but it's still a front 6 that should do a lot of damage against Chelsea.
What do you think? Do you think that was City had a bad game, or Chelsea had a good game, or a bit of both?
I think it has to be a bit of both. Maybe City weren't. I think it was Chelsea more just closing out City and them not letting City play their normal game.
They were faster. Chelsea were faster to everything. And I thought, if they were to now meet in the final of the Champions League, you'd bet on Chelsea. Wouldn't you?
The thing is, Champions League finals, a lot of it is dependent on experience. Pep obviously has done it before, but a flipping long time ago. And some of the players in the Chelsea team, you can imagine, could bottle it under that sort of pressure. But based on that performance, like FA Cup, there's a little bit less pressure. But based on that performance, you would absolutely back Chelsea. But if it did come to a Champions League final, I think City probably would be favourites.
I thought that was a fascinating game. I was just waiting for this normal 1-0, then I'll turn it off and go and watch Thunderbirds or something, but it didn't happen, and I was very surprised. And when I started watching it, you've gone dark. When I started watching it, and I suddenly realised Chelsea were way on top, and it just carried on. And it wasn't until they brought Foden on that anything changed. So I was pleased, because I'm pleased the same way I don't want any football to be dominated by anybody, because otherwise it just makes it pointless. It's got to be a competition, and it's got to have, as we discussed last week, 2 teams equal, playing each other with lots of chances for it to be entertaining. And if one team dominates, it makes it complete pointless exercise.
Absolutely. The other semi-final is on at the moment, and Leicester are beating Southampton 1-0 at the moment.
Are they? Because that's almost good. Although I'd like Southampton to go and win the trophy, I think they wouldn't, and I think Leicester stand a chance of beating Chelsea. I think it's far more equal, and therefore I would prefer that.
I think it'd be a decent game to watch as well, Leicester-Chelsea, as an FA Cup final.
Yeah.
If it was City versus either of them, then we watched City versus Leicester the other week, and it wasn't really a competition, was it?
No. And can you imagine City versus Southampton?
Well, it'd be like a City versus Watford a couple of years ago when they won 6-0.
I wouldn't
be worth at all.
No. I need to add this clip. This is really just for Paul. This is Jimmy Glass saving Carlisle from non-league football. He scored in the last seconds of the game to save Carlisle from going down, and I found a clip of it. Carlisle's great escape. Okay, thanks.
We're still waiting to hear, of course, the final scores from Brunton Park, where it's Carlisle 1, Plymouth 1, and if scores stay that way, Carlisle will be relegated from the Football League. They're waiting at the McCain Stadium with bated breath. There is 1 minute to play at Brunton Park. I hope this is accurate news for Carlisle fans' sake. Carlisle have scored in the last minute of their game against Plymouth. We hear that Jimmy Glass, the goalkeeper, has scored for Carlisle at the McCain Stadium. They can't believe it, and nor can we. It's full time at Brunton Park. Jimmy Glass, the goalkeeper's goal in the 90th minute, has saved Michael Knighton and Nigel Pearson's team, and Scarborough, having been held to a 1-1 draw, they thought they were safe, and suddenly that safety's been snatched from them. What a day.
I hope you've enjoyed that. I guess we've gone on way too far, way too long, and we'll see you next week. Say goodbye, Kieran.
Goodbye.